Time to start. So, the trinity of this work is authenticity, integrity, and intimacy. We don't give a hoot about enlightenment. So any of you that are coming here to be enlightened, sorry to hear that. Enlightenment is really, well, there is, I guess, enlightenment, but in the terms of the mental body's story. See, the mental body has told us a story about enlightenment. It's its story. That one day you will get to this place where there will be a firework display. You will know everything and you will grin forever. Not going to happen. Sorry to be the first to break it to you. So we don't worry about enlightenment, because actually when one authentically experiences intimacy, then one realizes enlightenment is just not what it's about at all. And one doesn't want that version of that one day this marvelous thing will happen, it'll all be over and you will have arrived, right? Normally if someone behaves as if they've arrived, they go like, okay, I'm done. I got it, finished. It actually means, sorry, but I'm stuck. And I'm going to deny that until I can't hide it anymore. So our trinity here is authenticity, integrity, intimacy, and the one follows the other. And so authenticity is, you'll notice that I play a lot with words, and I love the phonetic language, because to me it makes sense that we first spoke to each other before we wrote to each other. And when we spoke to each other, we were hearing what we were saying. We weren't going to a book and reading up what the definition was so that we could understand what the person was saying, right? So I love the phonetic language. If I listen to words, I hear what the words are telling me. So authenticity is about author. Who's the author of this experience? And when we ask a question like, why does this keep happening to me? That's a question that can initiate the authenticity journey. And the authenticity journey brings to us the realization of the imprinting. That the author of the experience, while we are unconscious, is the condition of the emotional body which is imprinted in the first 7 years of our life. That's running the show. The discomforts coming out of those imprints give rise to all the doings that we enter to feel better. Right? So that's when we realize that, now we can start to impact that condition and regain our authenticity. Right? Integrity is different. Integrity is not, you see, the mental body has a moral code for integrity. If you behave this way, and this way, you have integrity. But actually that's the mental body's story again. Integrity is really about structure. This building has an integrity to it. And the integrity of this building is determined by the right building materials being used for the right applications. If you do not use the right building materials for the right applications, the slightest deviation in weather in this building will fall over because it doesn't have any integrity. It's the same with us. Our integrity is determined by what we go to the emotional body for, what we go to the mental body for, and what we go to the physical body for. If I'm going to the physical body to try and achieve something that only the mental body only the emotional body can accomplish, I will be out of integrity. So regaining integrity is about realizing what role the emotional, mental, and physical play in the manufacture of my experience. Right? Intimacy is something different. Again, intimacy is when every encounter becomes an opportunity for me to see deeper into what I am. See deeper into what I am, into me and see. Right? Into me and see. Everything becomes an opportunity to show me more about myself. Right? So a good analogy of this is when we commence the authenticity journey, the why does this always keep happening to me? What we look like is someone sitting in a restaurant with a plate of food in front of them and people around them and this, saying, I don't really like this food, these people annoy me, right? And the waiter's standing there and we're shouting at the waiter or moaning at the waiter, even though the waiter doesn't cook, right? About the quality of the food, right? And that is where we're at in the sad story or the number one story, right? And the number one story is victim and victor. It's the victim and victor story. Then, when we start entering this journey and we start moving towards integrity, that's like getting up from that table and discovering there's a kitchen. And that's like a groovy experience because we go into the kitchen and what is it? Appliances, recipes, utensils, all of these ingredients. And it's a very powerful experience, the integrity experience, because there's the opportunity to become a master chef, right? Which is really fascinating to us. And so once we get into that kitchen, the kitchen experience can last for a long time. It will last until we gain our integrity, right? And while we're in the kitchen, when we're in the kitchen experience, we actually believe we're in the spiritual experience. And the kitchen is mostly the metaphysical work. And the metaphysical work is a mental approach to spirituality, right? And while we're in the kitchen, we're figuring out how these parts work, right? And only when we gain integrity do we move out the kitchen. And when we're in the kitchen, we know we're in the kitchen because we say, I only read books about the kitchen. I only mix with people that are kitchen people. I only do kitchen things. And we drive along to our kitchen meetings. And while we're going to our kitchen meetings, we look in the traffic and we say, wonder when these people are going to get into the kitchen. Right? Don't they get it yet? Right? That's the kitchen place. Right? And what enables us to move out of the kitchen is a realization that the food must at some point be served and disappear completely into nourishment and conversation and right in order for it to fulfill its purpose. Because if we just keep cooking and cooking and cooking and we put the food out and we don't serve it, the food will spoil, we'll overcook it, and the kitchen isn't a place where you want to live, right? It's a hot, sweaty place, right? What takes us out of the kitchen is our integrity. And when we leave the kitchen, we move back to the same chair we sat in the restaurant before. With food in front of us, people around us, the waiter there. And to someone looking from the outside, it may appear that we're in the very same place we were in before we began our authenticity journey. But it's not. It's before this realization, chop wood, carry water. After this realization, chop wood, carry water. Right? And what happens is once we enter that part of the journey, when we leave the kitchen, because now we know the kitchen is there, we can go in any time we want. Right? But we just don't live there. Now we enter the experience of intimacy, where every encounter we have with our food, with the people around us, with the waiter, becomes an opportunity to see deeper into ourselves. And so we enter life on life's terms, where the rubber hits the road, right? And every moment is an opportunity to gain a deeper awareness of what we are, of what God is for us, and of where we are, right? Those are three important questions. We normally ask, who am I? Right? Who am I? And who am I? If we get the answer to that question, that will be an imprinted answer. It'll be culturally based or religiously based, or because it's not who, it's what. What will be a more efficient question. What am I? Right? And then if I ask the question, who is God? You can be sure I'm going to end up with some religious concept that's come down from some cult that is now a religion or whatever, right? And I'm going to, because it's more efficient is, what is God? Right? And the one question we very seldom ask, because getting to it is about the third story. And that question is, where are we? It's like we're in Texas. You know, really? Where are we, right? And the thing about these questions is, all three questions have the same answer. All three questions have the same answer. When we are in the first story, we behave this way. You know, there's a great story of a man walking along the street, and at night, and he comes across someone else on his hands and knees under a street light looking for something, right? And he says, have you lost something? And he says, yeah, I lost my key. He says, can I help you look for it? He says, sure, I appreciate that. So they look together, and it's a very small area of the street light. And after a while, he says, they've looked everywhere. He says, are you sure you lost your key here? He says, no, I didn't lose it here, I lost it at home. He says, well, then why are you looking here? He says, because my lights don't work at home. And that's how we are when we're in the first story. We're using this and this to try and comprehend this. But neither the mental nor the physical can comprehend this. We're using the outside to perceive what can only be perceived inside, through insight, right? And the authenticity story begins really when we start using insight as our means of interacting with our world, right? So, when we head along this journey from the authenticity, integrity, and into the intimacy, because our task is only to reawaken the experience of intimacy. Once we reawaken the experience of intimacy with ourselves, everything else is added unto us. When we don't take care of that, then we think we have to do and think our way through this world, right? So when we embark upon this journey, we also move along the pathway of awareness. The same pathway of awareness we moved along as we began to express ourselves in the world. We moved from the emotion of childhood to the mental of teenage to the physical of the adult, right? Once we start regaining an awareness of our authenticity, regaining our integrity, and regaining the experience of intimacy, we reverse that pathway. We go from the physical to the mental to the emotional, just as we are as a species at the moment. But we do it in our own experience. And we already know this, because if we go, for example, to learn how to meditate, because we want to use meditation as a way to know what I am and what God is and all that stuff, the very first thing we're going to be taught is a posture, right? Got to do the posture first. Got to do something physical, the physical posture. And once you do the posture, then the physical, you will get something mentally given to you to navigate the mental body, right? And so if my intention is to reawaken to the true essence of my home, or what is my home, then I will get given something like home, home, right? To navigate myself mentally towards home. And the intent of it is to have an experience. I want to have some sort of experience. And I only know I've had an experience if I feel something. And if I don't feel something, because I don't have an emotional body awareness, I'll use the mental to make stuff up. No, really, Archangel Michael's talking to me right now. And he told me that the left side of my macabre is slightly out, right? That's why nothing's happening. I just need to fix that macabre, right? Whatever, the mental body loves stories. It'll make stuff up. If it can't feel, it'll make stuff up, right? It's the same if you go to a shaman, right? If you go to a shaman would use the same pathway of awareness from the physical to the mental to the emotional. Let's say Frank is at the bar, and let's say the person behind the bar is part-time bar person, full-time shaman. And he says, Frank, let me help you out. Come over to my place tomorrow and we'll do some shamanic work on you because we're going to help you out, right? So Frank will go over there and say the shaman's name is Johnny Crow. Johnny Crow says, come, sit down, Frank, just sit over here. Let me just get some things together, right? And he'll do the physical preparation. Do the physical first, right? Make the fire, get out some cedar and sage, get the coals going, get the feathers, get everything good physically, right? Once the physical is done, then he'll enter the mental, right? So he'll say, throw some cedar on the fire and get the smoke going and say, oh, Great Spirit, my friend Frank, he's not feeling so good. He's a good man, but he's having a hard time. I'd like to say some good things for him tonight so that some good things can happen in his life. Great Spirit, right? And the intent of the mental is to move the emotional, right? Because if Frank's sitting there and Frank feels something, like gets emotional and feels something, he'll go, wow, Johnny Crow, you're pretty good. I'm feeling it. You feel it? I feel it, right? It's the same in evangelical churches. They figured it out a long time ago. They got the formula down, right? They have the whole stage set. They have the band playing. Dun, 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 Jesus, dun, 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 Jesus, right? And they get the whole thing going, and then the priest will come in. Once the physical is set, the priest will do the mental. And Jesus, right? Until everyone's all worked up emotionally, right? And as soon as everyone's worked up emotionally, come get healing, brothers and sisters. Come on up, I'll heal you, right? Boom, right? Because once you can if you can impact someone's emotional body, they will believe they've had an experience. Because if you feel it, it's real, right? And they'll get up out of the chair and walk. Ah, look at me. Hallelujah, right? But go and see them a year later. See what happens. Back in the chair, no faith. Lost my faith because I let someone impact my emotional body. So our emotional body is our responsibility, right? And until we take responsibility for it, other people will. Yeah. That's how politicians work. A political strategist is someone who says, okay, you want to get into the White House, this is what you got to do. These are the issues, right? And when you bring up these issues, people, they feel something. It's close to their hearts, this, right? These particular things are going to impact emotional people in an emotional way. Now you want to impact it in a sequence. If you can do it in this sequence, you're in the White House, right? And you know they're doing that because you can ask a politician a question on a particular issue and say, what is your views of immigration? And they'll like just sidestep the question, blah, 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 no answer. But a month later you go, what is your views on immigration? Oh no, let's talk about immigration. Because now my strategist has told me I am ready to press this button, right? And if you can press the right buttons, whether it's making people feel really good, if I make you feel good, you're going to vote for me, right? Or make you feel really afraid. You know what? The shit is about to hit the fan. You need someone strong, right? That's how it works. When we don't take care of our own emotional body, we become puppets. Even advertising is like that. Buy this shoe and you'll feel sexy. You will feel sexy, for sure, right? But because the feeling comes to you from outside, if the feeling comes from outside, it doesn't last. It's only possible and permanent if it comes from growth of the emotional body within, right? If I can contain it within my own experience through my own emotional development. Otherwise, it won't last, which means that shoe will be cool for a little bit, but then I'll put on, I won't feel that sexy in this shoe anymore. I need another one. I need a new shoe to feel sexy again, right? And that's what happens, is if we don't take care of our own emotional body, somebody else will, right? So the first step, though, on the journey is to take care of the physical, because we're going along the pathway of awareness this way. And the first thing is to get into the physical body. And although we may assume we live in this body because it kind of tags along wherever we go, we don't live in the body. We don't live in the physical body. We live in the mental body. When we went to magic school, we escaped into this place, and we've anchored ourselves here, and we function from here, and we bounce off there and back into there. So an example of that is, you can drive somewhere, and on the way there, you'll be in the mental, be going, Frank needs to get his things together, right? I'm really tired. Frank, I'm tired of Frank relying on me, really. I think Frank really needs to get his act together. You know what, Frank? I'm going to tell you. No, this is what I've got to say, Frank. It's all going on inside here, right? And then we arrive at our destination, and we have no memory of how we got there. Right? We're not there. And I like to say that is proof that there is a God. Because somebody is driving. It's not us, right? That is a demonstration of divine intervention, right? And the fact that we don't have cars piled up on every corner is an ongoing miracle. Because if you look in cars, people aren't there. Like they're either on their phone or they're listening to music. Right? And we spend most of our waking hours not here. We're in our mental thoughts. I mean, just think about where you're going to sleep tonight. Just put your attention there. You can go there and look at me. And if you put your attention there long enough, you can feel the sheets. You can feel the temperature of the room. You can even smell the room. You can see everything in the room. But you're here. Who are you? Right? So we're leaving all the time. So the first step is to get into this body, to anchor ourselves in the physical. It starts. This is the wonderful thing about having a body, because not everybody has one, right? We just think, they come, easy go. No, getting a body is really cool. It means you can show up, right? Not just be drifting around like plankton in the universe. Just show up, right? But we want to get into the body. It's the first step. And the easiest technique to use to get into the body is use what the body knows, which is breathing, right? And not breathing like... No, none of that stuff, right? You've tried it. Just regular, normal breathing. See, we don't breathe very much. We are the only breathing creature on the planet that unconsciously pauses between breaths. That actually stops breathing altogether, right? If you watch a dog breathe, right? Right? You watch a human breathe, watch someone on the telephone. What? Right? There's no breathing going on. Because the person's not there. They've left. That's why they're called cell phones. They help you leave your cell. They also keep you in your cell, right? Only prisoners have cell phones. We all have cell phones because we're prisoners, right? Everyone knows where you are with your cell phone. You can't get away these days, right? Used to be able to have some quiet time. Now you can't. Oh, here I am. Okay. So, but if a dog gets a fright, right? Watch a dog. If a dog gets a fright, it goes, right? If a human gets a fright, it's right? So the first step is to start breathing just like a normal human being. To connect our in-breath and our out-breath. Just connect them. There's nothing fancy about it. It's actually just breathing normally, right? When we connect our in-breath and out-breath, to connect our in-breath and out-breath, we have to consciously be here. So we give it a fancy name, consciously connected breathing. Just breathing like a normal human being, right? In and out. And in order to do that, especially for more than a minute, because the first minute's fine, it's nothing. But if we're going to do it in the presence process, you do that for 15 minutes twice a day, right? And you don't know the amount of emails I get. People are like, I just can't do the breathing. I just can't. I've tried, I've stopped because I can't breathe. You want to go, right? It is hard. You know what's hard? It's not the breathing. It's staying here in the body for 15 minutes. Because one of our biggest addictions is to leave. Any exit. Anxiety. We leave, right? So when we hold ourselves in the body for 15 minutes twice a day, there's going to be consequence to that. And people want to have an experience when they're doing their 15 minutes breathing, like, the experience is not happening, it's not happening. I'm not seeing there's no fireworks, right? I haven't seen God yet, I don't know who I am. Okay. It's not about that, right? Because the consequence of when we hold ourselves in the body is we're going to become aware of why we're leaving the body. And that awareness is going to come to us because these energy experiences that have impacted us here in childhood, those experiences, we're going to visit them. We're going to visit them unconsciously. The discomfort is like saying, what is happening and how do I stop this happening again? What is happening? Right. This is all going on unconsciously to us. Most of our attention is over here, of our available attention. That's why it's so hard to stay present. Most of our attention is there, on this, trying to figure out what's going on with this. How can I stop this? This is really uncomfortable. We're going to become aware of this condition, but because we're physically transfixed, because we're in the physical, it comes to us first through the physical, through physical awareness. When we do our breathing, we start to become physically uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to sit here. I don't know if any of you have ever done meditation or breathing where you're sitting there and you just get up, I can't do that anymore. I'll go and wash my car or something rather than... I'll go and do my chores rather than sit there and do nothing. I can't do nothing, right? Because when I do nothing, I'm going to realize something about my energetic experience. And with the breathing, we may get cramps, pains that we didn't know we had, right? We may go hot and cold, get itchy. Itching is a good one. Stuff starts coming up. And it's at that point when because what happens is we start having what's to us is pain and discomfort. It's not really pain and discomfort, but to us it's pain and discomfort because we've spent our whole life stopping any awareness of that experience. The pain and discomfort are not coming to hurt us. They're the physical manifestations of where we are already hurting. They're in the physical manifestation because we're physically transfixed beings. We don't have emotional awareness. We can't feel it in the emotional body. We first feel it as its physical manifestation. And it's at that point that it's really important that we adjust our perception about what compassion is. Because compassion is not going around adding vices to people's lives. Here, let me give you some advice. and give you some advice, right? That's not compassion. Compassion isn't going around helping other people so that I feel better, right? You'll notice peace organizations that go around being really, really helpful, giving people fish, and those communities forget completely how to fish, and they never stand up on their own 2 feet again from all the great help that they get, right? So helping other people so that we'll feel better has got nothing to do with compassion. In fact, compassion is not a doing. It's a state of being, right? We come from a paradigm in which if a child comes into the room and it's angry, because I as an adult have not integrated my own anger, I don't even know that I'm angry, let alone have integrated it, right? And when an angry child comes in the room, the last thing I want is a reflection of my anger around me. So my reaction will be, don't be angry, here, have a sweet, go and play outside, or don't be angry, go to your room, right? And what happens to the child is that the anger is energy in motion. It's completely natural energy in motion. We just spell it anger, by the way. It's a spell we put on it. Anger, right? But it's just this energetic circumstance. And it's in motion, and when you say don't be angry, it gets stopped. Goes into resistance. And what happens is an aspect of the child's awareness gets hooked into that. And that aspect of the awareness never goes out to play again. And that sweet that gets put in the mouth becomes all means of sedation and control every time an awareness of that energetic circumstance comes up. And most of our attention, of our available attention, until we impact our own emotional body, is hooked into those places. They're all over the place in the first 7 years, right? And we just can't go and play anymore, right? And we're just putting stuff into our mouth, trying to feel better, right? So compassion has got nothing to do with... Compassion is if I've integrated my anger, and I don't have anger inside of me. Because if you don't have anger inside of you, no one can make you angry. You'll just start laughing, right? And an angry child comes in, an adult who's integrated their anger would say, wow, that's interesting, you must be angry about something. Well, that's valid. Because if you're angry, that's a valid experience. I tell you what, you be angry, and I'll be with you while you're angry. Go ahead. I'm here with you. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to interfere about what you're going through. It's not going to bring up my own fears about my own anger. I'm not going to interfere, right? And you'll notice the child's anger will peak, and then there'll be tears, and once the tears pass, there'll be a quiet peace period, and then the child will get up and go and play outside without being told to, because child by its nature is playful, right? So when we start to feel uncomfortable, when we hold ourselves in the moment and start to feel uncomfortable, what we're feeling is the part of us that was developed during childhood. We are feeling the condition of the child. And we don't want to tell that child to not behave that way and have a sweet, because that's what we're doing. That's why it's very important to realize compassion. Compassion is being with myself without condition. And not shoving something in my mouth and telling myself that my experience is invalid and I shouldn't be having it. Because every experience I have is valid. It's whether I react or respond to it that counts. But the experience itself is valid. If I'm angry, it's valid. If I'm confused, it's valid. If I'm afraid, it's valid. But if I react or respond, makes all the difference. So that's the first step. Get into the physical body. Get into the physical body and start applying compassion to the experience of being in this body. Right? The next level of the work is mental. Right? Is realigning the mental, regaining mental clarity. And regaining mental clarity is very simple. Regaining mental clarity is about realizing that the causal point of the quality of my experience is the condition of my emotional body. That's one. The causal point of the quality of my experience is my emotional body. And it's very easy to get this mentally, right? Because if you leave here tonight and you feel good, you had a good experience. If you leave here tonight and you feel horrible, you had a horrible experience. It doesn't matter what I said or what I did. How you feel counts, because feeling is the causal point of the quality of your experience. Whether you realize it or not, if you like a song, it's because of how you feel about it. If you like a painting, it's because of how you feel about it. If you like food, it's because of how you feel about it. If you like a person, it's because of how you feel about them. Feeling is the causal point of the quality of our experience. And therefore, the condition of our capacity to feel is going to impact the quality of our experience. That's what's determining quality. That's the one thing. The other thing is, only I am responsible for the condition of my emotional body. Only I am responsible for my feeling capacity. And that's also easy to see, right? You can phone me and ask me to house sit for you. And I can come to your house and I can take care of the dog and I can water the plants and I can answer the phone and I can do a lot of physical things, put out the trash while you're gone and do physical things for you. You can phone me and ask me to house sit for you, and I can come and I can represent you mentally. You might have an appointment that you need to talk to someone, give me the information, I'll pass it on to them and speak to them on your behalf. I can even go to a court of law and speak on your behalf and represent you mentally. But you cannot phone me and say, Michael, I'm going away for 3 weeks. Will you please feel for me while I'm gone? Only you can feel for you. And therefore, only you can heal for you. Because the nature of the energetic circumstances within us. You see, the nature of energy is that it is intelligent. It has its own intelligence. The emotional body, the element of the emotional body, we call it water. Water is the element of emotion. That's why I chuckled about what was happening here tonight. It tells something about what's going on in this building. Right? The element of emotion is water. Right? Water knows what to do. If I take this water and I pour it over your head, I do not need to give it a GPS system for it to be able to get to the floor. If a spring comes out the ground, it does not need someone saying, go left, go right at this point, go. It will find the ocean. It has an intelligence, right? It's the same with our energetic circumstances within our body. That's why the child, if the child is allowed to be, that energetic circumstance, which we call anger, will move to a point of resolution and there will be peace. And that child's attention will never go back to that situation. It'll just let it go as if it never happened. But you stop that energetic process in midway and you never let it complete, its attention hooks in and will never leave it. It just becomes unconscious activity that ends up in unconscious behavior, that it goes and sits on the couch and goes, I just don't know why I keep doing this, but right? It won't even know, it can't. And the more you talk about it, the less chance you have, because it's got nothing to do with talking. It's purely energetic, right? So the only way that I can impact my emotional body in a way that is going to bring these conditions to a point of resolution is if I feel them and allow them to be there. If I allow myself to feel my fear, and I allow myself to feel my anger, and I allow myself to feel my grief, and I don't interfere with it. I don't say, my fear is balls of black barbed wire dripping with blood. And I'm going to turn them now into bubbles of angelic light. And then I'm going to go to my happy place. Right? That's called interference. It's called trying to help yourself. Stop trying to help yourself. Mess with yourself like that, right? And also trying to get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of my anger. Right? You know, it's our most precious gems. Our most precious gems are what happens in are given to us in the first 7 years of our life. Here you are. Here's your gift. Right? But to realize that, we have to enter the second story, right? And so this is where the wheat is separated from the chaff. Because the reality is, no one is going to feel their fear for somebody else. Like, I really like you a lot, so I'm going to deal with my fear. No ways. I won't have the courage. No one is going to look at their anger for somebody else or their grief. We're only going to go to those places when we're allowed in there. And that's what we'll realize as we enter this journey. The heart lets us in. The heart is running the show, not the mental body. Okay, I'm afraid. This is the mental body, right? I'm really afraid, so I've got a 5-year plan for dealing with my fear, right? So I'm going to deal with this fear today, and then that fear tomorrow, and that fear, and then by the end of the month, that'll be done, then I can do my anger, right? No, it doesn't work like that. The heart lets you in or not. And the way the heart does is, if you are too afraid, if the first thing that's going to come up with this work is the fear. And if you have the capacity to be with your fear, you're in. If you don't, you're out. It's as simple as that. The heart decides. It's coming from within. The will to enter this emotional imprint comes from within. It comes from within. So the first thing is we sit with our fear. And we be with our fear without interfering with it, without turning it into bubbles of angelic light or whatever, right? And if I sit with my fear, I'm soon going to come to a realization of what I'm most afraid of. What I'm most afraid of is my anger. You know, I've been standing for how many years like this with one toe moving, and I'm really pissed off about that. I really am. And if I sit in my anger long enough, I will realize the source of my anger. My anger is that I had my heart broken because I'm a being. I'm here to be, and no one acknowledged my being. Visitors, right? Do something. Do something to be. Only what you do is valued. What you are as a being is of no value here. And so when a being, a vibrational being that has no conditions, enters a world of condition, it's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to be heartbreaking to come into this world and not be seen. Right? But there's different levels to it than that, right? That these are jewels. When I sit in my anger, and I sit in my fear, and I allow my fear to be there, and I allow myself to sit in that energy, right, without interfering with it, what I will notice, one of the consequences are, I will realize that when I'm afraid of something, energetically I run from it. If there's anything unfamiliar and that causes me fear, I run from it. And a person running cannot be discerning about anything. They can't stop and go, is this appropriate for me or not? They just run, right? And so as I'm able to sit in my fear, I'll start to realize that I'm able to discern what's appropriate for me in my life. I've stopped running around, running away. I can turn and face the unfamiliar and make choices that serve me for the first time in my life. So out of dealing with my fear, or being with my fear, I gain the capacity to be discerning. It's the same with my grief. If I can be in my grief and sink down in my grief and be with it, I will realize that there are places in my life that I just ignore. And I don't even want to talk about that. I don't even want to see that person. I don't want to deal with that situation. Because I know that that is the source, that's a reflection of my grief. And if I allow myself to feel what's going there, I'm going to fall over. So when I allow myself to be in my grief, it teaches me how to feel deeply without falling over. It's the same with anger. Anger is the most challenging. It's the most challenging. Because friction, anger has the most powerful friction to it of all the resistances. And friction is crucial. Found the spot. Friction is crucial. If a train needs to move along a track, its wheels need to grip. It needs friction for those wheels to grip, so there's forward momentum. Also, if you want to stop a train moving, you need to apply the friction of brakes. Friction is very important in relation to how movement happens in our life. When we do not integrate our anger, we live with our brakes on. right? We live with our brakes on. So, because we don't have insight, it's very hard for us to perceive, initially, the impact these unintegrated emotional conditions are having on our life experience. But actually, it's very easy to see. You can just look at your life and say, where is it that I can't make decisions? Where is that thing that I can never decide about that? I never know. Okay, that's a reflection of my fear in the world. It's reflecting back to me at the world. And I can look at my life and say, where am I stuck? Where is there no movement in my life? Things just don't move there. It's just stagnant, right? That's where my anger is. It's a manifestation of my anger, unintegrated anger. And where in my life do I say, I'm just not dealing with that. Sorry, I don't have that conversation. Sorry, I don't deal with that person. I just don't go there. I just don't watch that, right? That's where my grief is hiding, right? Those are the manifestations. And only when I make a movement within myself, only when I be with the fear, anger, and grief, because when I be with the fear, anger, and grief, like water, it knows how to move to resolution. It knows. We don't know. It will only move when we are being with it without condition. It won't move if I'm being with it to turn it into light, or if I'm being with it to move it up through my chakras, or if whatever condition we put on it, all right? Because I want to feel better, because I want enlightenment, because no, being with it because. The image of being with our emotions is the Madonna and the child, right? That's the image of emotional body work. The Madonna is the emotional body. The child is the imprint, the imprinted condition. And the Madonna holds the child and cradles the child. It doesn't say, so how did you get here? So how long have you been here? So how long are you going to be here? How much do you weigh? Right? Let me understand you so that it's okay you being here, right? It's just being with no condition. When we be with our emotional state with no condition, that emotional state will begin to move. And everyone will experience that movement in different ways. There'll be internal movement. And when that moves to resolution, those things, those reflections outside of us will we will receive what we require, not get what we need and want. We will receive what we require because we are being with it. And it's at that point that we start to realize what an alchemist is. I do within myself what I want to happen outside. I do unto myself as I would have others do. It's happening internally. In fact, it's not even doing, it's not doing. It's undoing, right? But there's a different level to it than that this work reveals. Because the thing about the heart, the thing about integrating the emotional condition of the emotional body is it opens us to the heart. We don't have to open our hearts. Every one of us in the room here have open hearts. We just have to open to that heart. And to open to the heart means moving all the obstacles out of the emotional body so that we can open to the heart. As we open to the heart gives us revelation after revelation, insight after insight, right? So the insight comes from this. When we are suppressing our fear, anger, and grief, what we do not realize, what we cannot see, is that when I keep my fear and anger and grief out of my awareness, I simultaneously am suppressing my capacity to feel. It's a simultaneous. My felt perception is kept shut down, my emotional body awareness is kept shut down. I cannot feel. By not allowing myself to feel my anger and grief, I simultaneously shut down my feeling capacity. And then I behave in a really strange way, right? And we can see this in our leaders, because why our leaders annoy and irritate us is because they behave just like us, and we wish they wouldn't. We wish they wouldn't stand up there and behave just like we do at home, right? We want them to behave like saints while we at home behave like idiots, right? So, but watch our leaders, right? So, for example, our leaders believe, because they don't have emotional body awareness or felt perception, that we have to make peace. We have to make peace, right? So let's see how we make peace. The one way we make peace is this. You all shut up and sit still. And if you don't shut up and sit still, I'll send someone in to shut you up and sit you still, because we want peace. Right? Because it's a belief that peace, to make peace, you have to change the physical circumstances. You have to control those physical circumstances. You have to sedate them. Because peace is a sedated and controlled physical circumstance. That's what it is. It's not feeling anything. It's nothing happening, right? Otherwise, we have peace organizations, and our peace organizations do this. You bring your manifestos, and I have my manifesto, and we'll sit around the table, and we'll talk and talk, and we'll talk and talk and talk, until we agree on a particular manifesto. And then once we have that, we'll sign it in front of the media and declare peace. But there's never been peace through agreement, because peace isn't a mental concept, just like it's not a physical arrangement. Peace is already created. You don't have to make it. It's already being created. Peace is of the vibrational. You have to feel it. Peace, we only at peace if we feel at peace. Not if, oh, I think peace. I think peace. I do peace. You have to feel peace, right? But we don't know that if we can't feel. We don't realize you have to feel love. Even what we are, we can only know if we feel it. You can't think what you are. I think I know what I am. I think I know what I am, right? And so there's only peace on this planet. This planet is covered in peace. It's already given, right? A great teacher once said, heaven is now at hand. But where is it? Right? Where are we? If you take Iraq is at peace. Take all the people away and just see how peaceful it is. There's nothing but peace there. It's not the issue of the peace, it's what's obscuring it. What's obscuring the peace is all the behavior coming out of the emotional imprint of the people in the area and the people. And also, like in this country, you're not allowed to be angry. You are not allowed to be angry. I don't know if you realize that. It's just not allowed here. You can test this theory out in the airport, right? You can go to an airport and be really afraid. I'm really afraid. I saw someone with a really weird backpack and I'm really afraid, right? And I'll go, don't worry, it's okay, it's okay. Here, have a pill. So you can be afraid, it's allowed. In fact, it's encouraged. Because there's a whole pharmaceutical company, organization that's going to benefit from your fear, right? You're allowed to be really sad. You can be as sad as you want. I'm really sad. I'm sad about the way things are, And I don't think Obama and Hillary should be fighting. I just don't. I'm sad about that, right? And someone will go, don't worry, it's okay. Yeah, have a pill, right? I'll help you out, right? But you go into an airport and be angry. See if you get out of there alive. We're not allowed to be angry. This country is really angry. Yeah. Really angry, but not allowed to be angry here, so we'll export our anger over there, right? We'll go and do the anger over there, like far away. Don't do it here, please, whatever you do, right? But anger is difficult. That's why there's no movement. Nothing ever changes, because no one's allowed to feel their anger. And this is the thing, is that when we allow ourselves to, we each have the exact amount of fear, anger, and grief within us, which is not really fear, anger, and grief, although we spell it, because we went to magic school and learned to do spell words, spell energies, right? So we spell it, right? Fear, anger, but it's really just different energetic conditions imprinted within this emotional body. And they're not even personal, by the way, because they've been passed from generation to generation to generation. You can have your story about how you got yours, and I can have my story about mine, and your mother will have a story about hers, and your great-grandmother will have a story, and they'll all be different stories, but what remains the same is the energetic condition, right? The thing is, if I allow myself to fully feel my fear, anger, and grief, by feeling that, I completely awaken my felt perception. I awaken my emotional body awareness. And when I awaken my emotional body awareness and I can feel what's already been given. I don't have to go around trying to make peace, right? Because I don't have to go and try to do things to try and realize what I am. I have to be able to feel that, right? I have to be able to feel that. But unless I have a feeling capacity to go and try and find that key, I'm crawling around outside an artificial illumination. But I actually lost it inside. And the light that I need to shine on that is the insight, to get the insight. And that is through felt perception. Once that question is answered, then everything shifts, because then I'm going to awaken to the third story, right? The third story comes through awakening the heart, the emotional body awareness. And then life is a very, very different experience, right? So, I think that's enough for tonight. Tomorrow, what we're going to do, because what we've just looked at now, that's the integrity part of the journey. What is the purpose of the physical, the mental, and the emotional? When we go to them for their purposes, we regain our integrity. When I don't go to the physical to try and make something that's already in the vibrational, it's already given. I go and I resolve what's going on in the emotional so it can flow through and I can feel it in my life, right? Tomorrow we're going to look at intimacy, at the radiance of intimacy and the impact it has, because as we said, if this does not impact my experience in the moment, if it does not impact the experience I'm having with my family, if it does not impact the experience I'm having with my companion, then I'm not doing the alchemy, because it's supposed to impact our 3D experience in a very real and tangible way, right? So tomorrow we'll look at those 3 levels of intimacy and take that journey. Thank you all for coming tonight.